Guys, welcome to episode 2
Guys,
of Come On, Just Try It.
the last episode, of course, huge hit.
Famous super hit.
Yeah.
Seen by all
Like everything that
in
the Sons...
every country.
Everything that the Sons do, we broke the records, and YouTube shut it down because they said, you're breaking the views. Psy called us up, and he said, I won't let them... I was working on something. I will not let them surpass Gangnam Style views, and so YouTube shut us down.
Right.
That's what happened.
And then the Desposito boys called him up. And that's when something else happened. I'm Tom C. That's D. Marx. And this is episode 2 of Come On, Just Try It.
And what a joy it is to be back.
What a joy it is to be back. This is the award-winning series where we give each other something to watch or listen to. Mm-hmm. Just listen to at this point.
Tom, you mentioned awards. I give you an award for being best co-host to me.
Well, it was a very...
It's a tight race.
Tight race this year. I'm glad I got it. This episode's featuring a lot of crotch action. So,
see,
this is what's called mansplaining.
I think it would have been okay if you didn't mention it.
Hold on, let me try this move out. Oh yeah, look at that. I'm like
sometimes that's nice.
Like a proper gentleman at this point. Anyway, guys, so we have a show to do, and we're gonna do it. So we both. There you go.
There we go. Now we're here. Now we're here, guys.
See, it said that wherever you point your foot is the person that you're comfortable with.
Well, that's great.
Because I don't like how you have access to the bottom of my foot. That fucks me up bad.
It's like that thing you see when they say that if a dog looks at you while they're pooping, that means they trust you. Because it says that you're like, keep an eye out for danger.
The opposite is true. Is if I look at you while I'm pooping, I do not trust you.
I don't want you here. I want you gone.
I'm watching you.
I'm very uncomfortable
because I'm concerned about how this is going to go. Anyway, what this show is about is, like I just said, the thing I just said.
Yeah. So,
well,
last time, I
was hoping for one more cough there.
I'm trying to keep it down.
Good.
Last time I gave Tom the album "The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust," a David Bowie 1973 classic, and Tom C. gave me "The Money Store" by Death Grips, the 2014 debut album.
Which it's not. Well, yeah, you're right. And we did listen to it, and we went into a great review, which you guys all saw.
Yep, everyone
hopefully,
saw it.
Or else you didn't, because it might not have actually shown up, because we decided to play music in it.
Yeah.
Which was a pretty good idea for a music show.
Yeah, I thought that fair use because we were actually reviewing them.
And we didn't play the whole songs.
Not playing the whole songs and actually reviewing them as a critique. But no, YouTube did not go for that.
No, sir. We appealed to the YouTube court, and they said no.
So we're keeping it quiet. Metal Gear Solid quiet here.
We did put up copyright infringing images on the bottom there, so you can see the albums that we're doing this week, which are what?
So, last time we had the mini episode, you gave me, for this current episode, Van Halen self-titled debut album.
I gave you like 6 Van Halen albums to do.
1978, Van Halen 1, a.k.a. just Van Halen. The debut album by the Van Halers.
By the Inhalers and the Vans.
Yeah. I actually forgot I was going to do a joke where I accidentally listened to Van Morrison. And it's too late for that.
Would have been a very funny joke.
It would have been a great joke. Or also the Van Helsing soundtrack. Starring Hugh Jackman.
Right. And you gave me last week an album by the Kinks called Arthur, or the Decline and Fall of the British Empire. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm going to be sticking to the theme of the blank and fall.
Apparently,
I'm
trying to think of what else you got.
But yeah, so that's what you had. That's what I had. We gave each other about 2 weeks, closer to 2.5 weeks now, to listen to them. I've listened to Van Halen Numero Uno. I believe that's what it's called.
Yeah,
I've probably because unlike Money Store, I could actually listen to this one at work because there was no cursing. It was just nice old Van Halen.
Surprisingly, only one Van Halen song I think has the F word in it.
I didn't even hear it.
It's not in that album.
Oh, okay.
I mean, on Earth, one Van Halen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So family friendly. That's already a start. Family friendly album. So I was able to listen to it a lot. Kind of have it in the background as I was going about my day and everything. So I listened to it quite a bit.
And you want people at work to think you're some kind of like cool rocker.
Yeah. Well,
you're like, there's the red rocker.
Well,
D. Marx.
This week I was switching back and forth between this album and Bonnie and Clyde the musical. So I'm not sure how people are. I'm not sure what people in the office are going to think about that.
If I were you, I wouldn't ask.
It's probably very fair. But yeah, so I was able to listen. I probably like listened to it about 3 or 4 times, and then like had in the background just a lot.
Right. Okay. So with Arthur, the first time I listened to it, I was playing Monster Hunter. Not that focused. The last time I listened to it, I was playing Hearthstone, so I was very focused. Mm-hmm. And then I had it a couple times in the background, but I would say I got 2 real listens in.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair too.
That's about what I do with Money Store. So
right.
I think I was still able to talk about that.
Right.
So let's talk about, because we're going to do the classic back and forth fashion.
I love back and forth fashion.
So we're going to talk about the positivos. Or even like first impressions.
Yeah, what was your what did you think?
So here's
when I gave you this album.
So here's the thing. Number one, I already talked to you about this off air, but I'll tell us about it now.
Right, we do talk off air, folks.
We do. It's hard not to because we live together.
Yeah, don't even think that we don't.
So
we live together. Best porno site.
Yeah. So I was telling you off air. The only problem I had with you giving this to me is that it's a shitty time of year for Van Halen.
It shouldn't have been.
It should not
have
been
nice for this.
But it's been very cold, very bleak in our area, like a lot of 50, 40-degree days. Mm-hmm. Van Halen has always optimally enjoyed driving 90 miles per hour in a 1989 IROC Corvette down a highway that's also next to an ocean with palm trees lining it, and there's a beautiful blonde in the passenger seat.
And you're wearing sunglasses.
Right. Yeah.
We all know this.
That's prime Van Halen conditions. And that's either sex. That's male or female.
Right.
Or intersex.
Yeah, intersex. We could not replicate those conditions.
Yeah, no. It always has to be like that. And that's your prime listening. And we could not get that this time.
Right. I, on the other hand, was given an album that I basically had to go back in time to get the full effect of.
Well, okay. So that's another thing I want to talk about Van Halen too, is that like I'm not. This wasn't like it was last week for both of us, where I was completely unfamiliar with. We were both pretty unfamiliar with like what we had. I've listened to Van Halen, not as much as you have, obviously, because I know.
Right, I'm a super fan.
No, I know you're a big Van Halen. You're a big DLR fan. And so I had to think of it. So I wasn't unfamiliar with Van Halen and their stuff. So like I had to put myself. What I really wanted to do was kind of what you did, where it would be easy for me to just go and be like, yeah, it's Van Halen, it's great. But I wanted to put myself in the mindset of like getting this in 1978,
right,
and like listening to it for the first time and like what that would have been like.
Right, and we touched on that a little bit in the mini episode. Basically, just like imagine this was the first thing like this to ever come out. And that's kind of the important thing, I think, is to contextualize that. Because now you got all these wanky bands. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? But this was like the wanky band. And they don't even wank that much. But I'm happy I gave it to you.
They took wanking to an art form, that's for sure.
They introduced the world to wanking.
Yeah, they really did.
Imagine that if one day some strange man came up to you in an alley and was like, here's how to masturbate. And you're like, I don't know what that is.
Who is that?
That's like how good this album is. It's like it introduced the world to this.
So that's the kind of mindset I went to going in. Just being cognizant of like what the album would represent in 1978, listen to it for the first time.
Right. When I was given the Kinks, whatever it's called, you
can just call it Arthur.
I really had no idea what it would be like. I had not listened to any Kinks before. I forgot most of the songs they did have. What are some of the Kinks' big hits? Because the one thing I do recall thinking was that I was surprised you gave me this.
Okay, so this another thing about this album in particular is that this doesn't have a lot of their big hits on it.
I don't think it has any of their hits on it.
Victoria was a big single, but that's like about it. This was definitely more like this was a popular album, but it definitely was more of a critic darling as opposed to being something that was like widely bought. Big Kinks hits include "You Really Got Me," which was famously covered by Van Halen on this album.
Right. Hilarious combo there.
Hilarious combo. You Really Got Me, All Day and All the Night, which is a very similar song.
How's that go?
Girl, I want to be.
Oh, I love that
you.
song.
Yeah. So that's another Kink song.
They made a lot of effing hits, dude.
Yeah. They did Waterloo Sunset, which is a great song that I love. They did Lola, obviously, which is a very famous song.
That's a big song.
So those are the big Kinks hit, I think.
Right.
You're not really getting that on this one as much.
Don't you knock down that camera, cat. We've been down this road before.
So this album doesn't have its biggest hits, but it's a really good. I think it's a really great concept album.
Do you think it's a good intro to the Kinks?
Okay, so here's the thing about the Kinks.
You can call them the Conks.
The Conks. I have multiple times.
Or the Kanks.
The Kanks. Can I call them the Kunks?
No.
Okay.
You didn't hear me say it.
So the thing about the Kunks is that. So they
Just don't say Kunks.
Okay. So they do and they don't evolve the way that a lot of other bands do, because the Kinks carry a lot of like that kind of Brit poppy British invasion sound for a good portion of their like career, at least of stuff that I've listened to. Because basically they came out in like 64. This album came out in 69. Or they might have come out in 62. But regardless, this album came out in 69, and it's still kind of lingering on that, like, Yardbirds, early Beatles, obviously Kinks, but they all kind of have this similar kind of... You hear Britpop, you know what Britpop sounds like.
Right.
So they carry that with them through a lot of their career. I think Lola versus Power Man and The Money Ground is the first where they kind of, like, move away from that a little bit.
That has to be art pop.
I don't even know if it's art pop, because it definitely incorporates some more bluesy elements. That album's a little more scattered and a little more all over the place, which I also really like. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the earlier stuff, while some of it is kind of like that proto-punk, which is, I think, what a lot of people are very familiar with the Kinks about, a lot of it also is very Britpop. Waterloo Sunset is like that. But also, still, the thing about the Kinks is always like, they take, and especially this album, I feel... They take a lot of what you'd expect from that style of music, and they kind of turn it on its head in almost like a grungy way, where the subject matter tends to be a little either
in this album,
and some of their other albums as well. Because Waterloo Sunset is a very Britpoppy album, but it's like kind of talking about like the emptiness and loneliness that one kind of feels, just by like kind of being around, even in a big city like London and things like that. So they're kind of these elements of like exploring darker themes while keeping like a bright kind of tone.
Right. One thing I will take note of in this album, it's not giving away much, but the production value is like super high. Like it's ridiculously good even for today's standards. And some of the tracks are like really heavy. Not like heavy for tone, because they are of course heavy for tone. I forget what song it is. It might be, I think it's the end of She Bought a Hat Like Princess Marina, which is not as bad of a song as you think it is. But it's got a really like heavy riff to it. There's like a lot of cool riffs in this album, which is kind of surprising. Because when I first read about it, it's like, yeah, it's kind of it's supposed to be a rock opera, whatever. I'm like, okay, it's supposed to be like at the same time as Tommy or whatever.
Yeah, Tommy actually came out the same year as this.
Honestly, this is way better than Tommy. For real, this feels like it lasts. It's more out of its it wasn't stuck back there like Tommy was.
I've never listened to Tommy, so I don't know.
It's annoying.
I think classically and technically, Tommy's considered a rock opera. This is more considered a concept album, but that's just semantics.
Whatever.
Yeah, really. But with this album, I think a lot of reviews about this album, and my personal opinion is that this is one of the best executed concept albums about how it keeps through its. So for those of you who don't know, and we will talk about Van Halen, guys. For those of you who don't know, Arthur is as we said, kind of a rock opera concept album, however you want to frame it.
A cock opera.
A cock opera that explores the decline of the British Empire through the first half of the 20th century, both lived through and seen through the eyes of a man named Arthur, who is a carpet layer who moves to Australia. It's actually based off of Rice Davies' brother-in-law, because he and his wife, Rice Davies' sister, moved to Australia, and he was very close with them, and so he was very bummed out when they moved, and it kind of spiraled into this thing. But it's actually the album Arthur is named after him, his brother-in-law.
Right, that I did know.
So that is what the album is about. Just basically like how the British Empire kind of just fell into decay. Both before and after the Second World War.
Right. And so a couple of these songs on this album are super duper down, like not fun at all to listen to. Like Some Other Son, that's a tough one.
Yeah, Some Other Son is a very sad song.
That once you like listen to it and actually like get the lyrics in, it hurts.
Yeah.
Yes or No Sir to a lesser degree. Victoria is a really good song.
Victoria is a great song, and Victoria is actually the song that really kind of got me into this album.
It's hard to hate.
Well, because I was listening to like Spotify has like for a lot of bands it has a This Is playlist.
Right, I like that.
Yeah, and so like it's like a lot of their greatest hits, and Victoria was on that, and I listened to it and I was like, wow, I really like this song a lot. And
like,
then
this is.
I really liked Victoria a lot, so I went back and listened to this album, and I found out that I really enjoy this.
This album's right up your alley.
I really like a lot, and also that Victoria and Arthur are both really good songs.
They're both really good songs.
Yeah.
Not my favorite song on the album, but they're both very, very good.
Yeah.
I will say, just to say it, "Driving's" the worst song ever. That song's bullshit.
Really?
That
You
song
like
sucks.
You like Hat like Princess Maria more than
Okay,
Driving.
the end riff of "She Brought a Hat Like a Princess Maria" is good. Like you get if you just cut 3 minutes of that song, it fucking rocks. To go listen to it again because it's better.
Also, I'm surprised you said you didn't like Australia.
I got back into Australia.
Yeah.
Australia's just okay. So here's the weird thing about this album, because there's lyrics that are great and stuff like that, but like the guitar riffs are nuts and excellent. For some reason, there's like this crazy like Grateful Dead vibe to it, where like there's way crazy jam songs like Australia. Also, the vocal styles are a lot like Grateful Dead.
There's a lot of like some of the songs have like kind of big orchestral elements as well, which kind of introduces an epic scale. Victoria has a little bit like that. There's like a bridge, and then
it's just a hardcore jam out session.
Yeah.
Like when I first listened to it, I was like, this reminds me a lot of Van Morrison. Reminds me of Grateful Dead. Reminds me of Steve Miller to a weird degree. Because these are all things that like I remember my parents listening to when I was a kid. I'm like, these things sound really familiar. So like it feels like this stuff was all there before it. One complaint I do have, it always sounds like the guy's putting on a funny voice.
I get that.
Especially when you hear like the other stuff he sings like later. Like it doesn't sound anything like this album. And maybe he is, but like it's weird.
I mean, I think some of the ones I think there are some songs that are like that. I think Mr. Churchill says is a little bit of I think he maybe has an affect, but I think that's kind of Rice Davies' style.
Right, but it seems like a goofball voice. I don't know what the point of it is, but maybe it just is. I don't know enough about it. But honestly, some contemporarily nice riffs.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything on this album to say this is dated. I mean, you might, but like...
Really? I honestly think this album is very dated, but I like it.
Yeah. Okay. It maybe like... I don't look back and say I can't understand this the way that I look back at Ziggy Stardust.
Okay.
Because that was like, I had to put myself there. If you just told me this was the soundtrack of some album, like some musical that came out in the past like 10 years, I'd be like, all right, that's fine. It's because the way it's written is very... I think modern.
It's very melodic. I think in a way that maybe does lend itself to musical theater and something like that.
Right.
So I can understand what.
And the problem is I don't have anything to compare it to. I don't know how the Kinks evolved or where they came from to this, but I do think that it is not a hard listen to as much as for me getting into David Bowie was.
That's really surprising. I thought you were gonna like this album a lot less.
I didn't say that. I'd say how I feel about it.
Well. I thought you were gonna have a harder time getting into it then.
Oh, it was easier to kind of digest at first, but the David Bowie, I am going to listen to that album at later dates.
Yeah,
which is I'll get into.
Yeah, that's fair.
Later, but I truly don't like Driving. I would never listen to that song ever again. It just is not. It's like doesn't feel right. I will say I think Brainwashed might be my favorite song.
Brainwashed is a good song.
That's a fucking punk song right there.
Yeah, that really is.
That is a punk ass song. Victoria's great. I like Mr. Churchill says.
I think for me personally, I really like Victoria. I think the trilogy of songs, Australia, Shangri-La, and Mr. Churchill says are really strong.
I got into Shangri-La later.
Yeah, I really like Mr. Churchill Says. That was another one that I listened to quite a bit. And
Young and Innocent Days I'm never going to listen to again.
Yeah, I mean,
you get the point. That's a song that's kind of a wank. It would probably be necessary on a concept album.
Yeah.
But for real, that's not like a song you're like, all right.
I like Nothing
Great
to
song,
Say.
bro.
That's a good song.
Yeah, I liked it when Dave Matthews did it. What?
Did he cover that song, or are you just
Nothing to say.
Right,
yeah, no, I don't know. That song's good too. That song is good. Arthur's of course excellent.
Yeah. So that's some of the positives that you were feeling, and then
positives.
Now I'll go into
please
a little bit because I do.
Let's talk about Van Halen.
Let's have a serious musical discussion about Van Halen.
Now, real talk. If you saw the mini episode, I wanted you to listen to a different album. When then I realized no.
This was the more correct choice because I definitely listened to a lot more.
Yeah,
a lot more songs on that album.
So, how many of these songs do you think you have heard before? Because it's not nothing.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure
it's 11 tracks.
I think the only songs I hadn't heard before are Atomic Punk, Little Dreamer, On Fire, and maybe Feel Your Love Tonight. And that's about it. I think I'd at least heard the other songs once, but not in this not all together.
Right.
So here's what I'm going to say. Kind of going back a little bit what I was saying before.
If you say this album sucks, I'm going to lose my shit.
No.
I'm going to fucking jump out the window.
Here's what I was going to say. So my thing going into this was, again, I've listened to Van Halen before. I'm familiar with a good amount of their, like, you know, the popular Van Halen stuff. I've listened to Jump, I've listened to Panama, all that junk. So when you first gave this to me, I was kind of like, okay, well, you know, this won't be that hard for me to get into because I already know Van Halen. But then, like I said, I want to put myself in the mindset
of he's a critical mind.
Yeah, I wanted to put myself in the mindset of listening to this for the first time in 1978 and what
your famous mind, Mandy Marx.
What it would have meant to me then. And the thing I kind of think about why this album kind of caught on a big way, or at least why this band caught on in a big way, because this album was like a slow burn. Because, like, obviously they were very popular, but, like, it wasn't their most famous.
No.
I think 1984 was the one that they really kind of hit big with.
Yeah, because every fucking song's great.
Yeah. But then when they hit big with that song, people went back and bought this album. That's why it's, like, a huge thing.
Because the album's fucking great.
Yeah. So, I was kind of putting myself, like, where would I be listening to this album in terms of, like, the music scene of, like, rock and, like, what it was? And I think the reason...
Tell me some comparisons here that we have.
Well, it's okay. So here's what I kind of boiled down to about why I think this took off and why I would think that this would be good is because I think you're coming to this at a time when rock music has become rather, at least like some of the bigger acts of this era...
Your Limp Bizkits.
Yeah, Limp Bizkit. I'm pretty sure Fatboy Slim is here. No, but like you got Zeppelin. I'm trying to think of other big rock acts. I mean, you got like, I don't know,
Nirvana.
I mean, Grateful Dead's around this time, but I think what I kind of reached the conclusion
the Kinks
of
are definitely around.
Yeah, it's true. Well, they're kind of on their way out by this point, by 78. But I think my kind of conclusion I came to was that while a lot of those bands, David Bowie, Led Zeppelin, Grateful Dead, they put a lot of like thought and feeling and expression in their song, and like taking rock to, you know, an art form and a way to express oneself. I think Van Halen kind of took a step back and it was like, rock can be fun and like rock can be energetic and like it doesn't necessarily have to have meaning, and that's really not meant to be an insult. It's a really case of like taking something that originally was kind of supposed to be a lot more fun and jovial and a little more brazen and kind of taking it back to an era where, because like when it came out, when rock was still like kind of that weird amalgamation of like blues and country and rockabilly and all that stuff of like, and like, you know, especially Elvis Presley, it was very controversial, very, as you have so loved to say on the show, very dangerous.
This is an incredibly dangerous album.
So like it's kind of like the way that Elvis Presley was back in the day, because when he came out, like everybody was like scandalized because he was like moving their hips and stuff. And then, you know,
he might impregnate girls just standing there.
And then like 25 years later, when Van Halen comes out, rock isn't stale, but definitely is very more thoughtful, very much more introspective. Led Zeppelin, Bowie, Rush is coming out at this time. Yes has been a band for a while. So a lot of these big acts that are very kind of, you know, very focused on the musicality. Whereas again, I think one of the reasons why Van Halen became so big is that they introduced rock again. It's just this like fun bopping thing that you can just plop on, listen to. Proving it doesn't have to have meaning. It just can be, because what are 90% of Van Halen songs about?
Girls?
It doesn't matter because there's a guitar solo in there.
Right. People want to go to a concert without having to read a J.R.R. Tolkien book.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So like, you know, and I think it kind of set the stage for a lot of other. I think we talked a little bit about how David Bowie and how the glam movement in general kind of brought about a whole new thing of like T-Rex. So you're talking about how like David Bowie was very much inspired by Mark Baleford, I think his name was.
I think that's it too.
It's something close to that. And how he was kind of inspired by that, and then you know the glam thing came around. I think they kind of took, Van Halen kind of took that and ran with it as well, of being like, well, we can kind of do like this fun kind of in your face style of it.
Right. I think so too. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that, you know, Led Zeppelin's bad or anything like that, but this was really not the same direction they were going to go.
No, and again, whether Led Zeppelin is thoughtful and introspective, and whether Van Halen is shallow and very much more focused on just like getting a good song across. That's not to be meant as an insult in any way.
Of course.
It's just two very different styles of rock music. Apparently this is classified as heavy metal by a lot of people.
I would maybe say that.
Or like kind of a forerunner of heavy metal.
Because you wouldn't call it hard rock.
I would have defaulted to hard rock on this one more so than
I think there's
metal.
too much shredding.
Maybe.
I think hard rock doesn't really have shredding like that. Although I have no idea what makes metal.
Yeah, I don't know what makes hard rock.
Right.
But regardless, that's kind of where I'm at with this album, where it's just a case of like you gotta just be there to enjoy it, as opposed to really putting a lot of thought into it. You just bopping along with the tunes. Like I said, you're driving your iRock.
Yeah, you don't need to. This is an album you can just listen to in the background.
Yeah,
because you're gonna be like, all right, I've kind of stopped paying attention. Oh, what is this solo?
Yeah,
what is that? What's he doing over there? Like, he's getting drawn back in. You don't need to know every word to Ain't Talking About Love. You don't.
It's a good song.
It is a good song. There's actually a Minute Maid cover of it. Huh. I was surprised at. But like, you don't really need to invest in it, which is not a downside.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your positives about it? What do you like?
So again, it's a fun album to listen to. I think it's a great like party album. You put this on, people are going to be loving it.
They're going to be doing air guitar.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a crowd pleaser album.
Doing jump splits if they can.
Yeah.
Anyone who is able,
power sliding all over the place.
Please do your jump splits.
But I think it's just like a fun album to listen to. I think it's very light, which in the case when you run and listen to something a little lighter, I think you throw that on, you get down to it. It's got a lot of bopping hits.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think in my head. I'm never gonna be like, it's just not a Van Halen time. I can't do it right now.
Yeah, I get it.
It's whatever. Just pop it on. Who cares? You know what I mean? What track stood out to you?
So, two big tracks. Obviously, there are a ton of hits on here. Mm-hmm. A lot of singles that came off of this album that were huge hits. I liked some of the deeper cuts, honestly, because I'm a pretentious hipster.
Because the other ones are probably played out a little bit.
Well, not even that, but like they were songs I was listening to for the first time. So like Atomic Punk fucking kicks ass.
It's a great song.
That song rules. And like the opening riff, like that was one where the opening riff caught me immediately, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, that's what this album's all about.
Yeah.
You're just like sitting there, like, all right, I'm the one. Fine, that's fine. I'm dealing with. Then the next track, you're like,
yeah,
like someone turn him off.
So that's a big one.
This man's dangerous.
I was a bit, honestly, this might be one that you think is a little not great, but I was a big fan of Little Dreamer.
Little Dreamer's a great song.
Yeah. And then On Fire is just fucking nuts.
Ask me a song on this album that I don't like.
Is there a song on this album?
Probably Jamie's Crying. That's probably the only one I don't care about.
Jamie's Crying's an alright song.
Yeah, it's just slow.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that song by Aerosmith.
Yeah, well, yeah, who doesn't?
Which blows.
Yeah. That's
probably the only okay song here. On Fire is an unbelievable song.
Oh yeah, because On Fire brings exactly what you want, which is not only Ripper on guitar solo, but fucking David Lee Roth doing rad rock screams that are fucking reverb like crazy.
Did you realize how correct Michael Starr from Steel Panther is?
Yeah.
He's not off at all.
And Dr. Roxo.
They're not off at all. They're 100% accurate.
Yeah.
But you can really kind of get David Lee Roth's charisma right from the get-go.
Oh yeah. Well, because like you have that charisma that he has as like because like he's like a sexy man coming through even just through the speakers.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to seduce everybody.
Yeah, you know what's up.
Kind of like the way that David Bowie was. Like David Lee Roth obviously probably didn't swing the ways that David Bowie did, but like he's just like, sex is cool and everybody should be having it. Like that's David Lee Roth's outlook on life.
That's what we're about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the title of his memoir.
Well, I think it was just I'm Just a Gigolo, so you're not far off.
Well, there you go. But like, yeah, it's not. And again, going back to that like dangerous thing of like, so many of these albums or songs are focused on sexuality and almost like promiscuity in a way that I think
premarital sex
that I think would have turned a lot of like parents' heads who had been growing like, even if they did grow up with
this isn't your dad's album.
Well, I think like even if a 15-year-old girl was listening to this album, they'd be like, oh, I don't like little Jenny listening to fucking a Little Dreamer. It's gonna make her think that being a slut's the way to go.
Right. And there's some songs that are downright, hardcore with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, Ain't Talking About Love is really just like,
And Feel Your Love Tonight.
like we're
Feel Your Love Tonight is just about we're gonna fuck.
This is gonna be a premarital arrangement.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or an extramarital arrangement.
Oh my god.
Which, and in case of Ice Cream Man.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's
like
the thing
100% sure.
100% sure. It's not their most dangerous album, but it is a dangerous album. And I want to kind of bring up another album list here. So the one I was originally going to give you was 1984.
Right.
Which, that might even be post their most dangerous years, because these are all pretty absorbable.
Yeah.
Like, the only song here would be, like, Top Jimmy or Drop Dead Legs, which I would have liked you to hear. But, like, the real thing is, you already listened to perhaps their most dangerous album, which is, of course, Fair Warning. So, like, they hadn't reached pure danger yet, but, like, they're at the point where they're still a little bit kind of, like, you know, you're getting the idea. They could only go so far out on this first album.
What I'm hearing from you right now is that the Fair Warning tour was probably their most dangerous.
Absolutely, it was dangerous.
Yeah.
So, like, what you need to do is when you get Van Halen Week Part 2, go listen to just this album.
Yeah.
When you have free time, listen to this whole fucking album. Because this is the only album where they say the F word.
Oh, no.
That's in Sinner's Swing. That's a great album.
But yeah, so that's what I'm kind of talking about.
I'm going to listen to that
like,
album later.
The danger and the, like, because like I said, kind of going back to touching on things we talked about last week, David Bowie. Again, this is a very sexy album. It's a lot about, you know, sexuality and things like that. So I think that's very interesting. I think it kind of sets a tone.
Do you feel like it's dated at all?
I don't think so, because I think Van Halen's always benefited from being the first and always being like the kind of best about what they do. It spawned a lot of Van Halen's obviously spawned a million imitators because of how popular they were.
But they all suck.
But
they're not as good as Van Halen,
except for Steel Panther, which is great.
Which is not, it's different.
It's different.
Like, you couldn't come to me and say, "Oh, I got you a Motley Crue album to listen to." Fuck that.
Hey Tom, do you listen to that new Rat album?
No, what the fuck? Like, okay, even if it's not new, there's no way an old Rat album is as good as this.
Yeah.
There's no way it stands up at all.
Well, and a big part of that, and the reason why I know that
David Lee Roth in it,
because his David Lee Roth is Eddie Van Halen. That's like two big.
They should have named the band after one of those guys.
They should have named the band after two of those brothers in that band.
But they didn't.
Why not?
They named it Michael Anthony the band.
Hi, we're Michael Anthony's band.
They could have done it.
Could have.
He wears that fun whiskey bottle. Do you ever see that?
No.
So he always dressed as a Jack Daniels bottle on stage, and he plays the bass. So he used to always just dress up as that. I bet you his Wikipedia is a picture of him in this. Nah, lame. Boo. There's got to be pictures of it, but that's what he always wears.
So, but yeah, do I think it's dated? No.
Would you go on a date to this album?
But only because Van Halen was such a trendsetter in the way that it does this, like, the shredding and everything like that. Oh, okay.
See, he's known for... I'll find him in the suit. You guys cannot see what we're doing.
Trend setting in such a way that, like, you know, because it was just so heavy with the, like... like, this album's over the top in so many different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's, like... It's one of those things where, like...
Sammy Hagar shit out of here.
It takes... It's like, okay, we've reached the point... It does, like, a U-curve where it's like, okay... Now it's going to be too much, but we're going to add more and make it okay again. Where you're just like, oh, this is great. Like, fucking give me more. How many more guitar solos can we fit in this song? Because I want more of them.
No, and they happen.
How much louder can David Lee Roth scream? Because I want him to do it louder.
Yeah, and he gives it all. Like, he reaches maximum yell it on fire for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's why it's so cool.
That's why it's so good.
Yeah, because you're fucking speeding down the highway listening to that song. You're just like.
You don't feel like they left anything on the
Yeah.
They gave you everything.
I think
if you don't like Van Halen, it's your fault.
I think that's probably like I think that's the unifying the Sons unified theory of music is that Tom C and I both, doesn't matter what kind of genre
or genre, as I like to say.
We're gonna be Land Virginia. We're gonna gravitate towards albums and musicians that don't leave anything on the table.
They're obviously giving it their all.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna hold true throughout this entire series, and I think that definitely holds true to the albums that we've done, the 4 albums that we're doing so far: Ziggy Stardust, Money Store, Arthur, and Van Halen 1.
Yeah, they're all extreme albums.
Yeah, they're all in various different ways, but nobody's phoning in on any of these songs.
No, like David Bowie's 100% committed to being David Bowie. Van Halen, you couldn't... See, this is what I'm talking about. I have this weird thing about, like, realness and not being a poser, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing I have. It's a problem, right?
Yeah.
But Van Halen can't go and do fucking country. They can't do it.
Yeah.
If you said, here's Van Halen's country album, I'd say, fuck you and then fuck them.
Well, and that's kind of a funny thing too. I was making a joke to myself of like, because Little Dreamer is a very different song on this album.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, I bet this started out as a ballad and then Van Halen got involved and they're just like, okay, well, it's a little slow, so we could speed it up and we could probably throw a guitar solo in here.
A little more.
And David, if you want to bring up the volume a little more.
Just pretty much go for it.
Yeah, just like that. So like, I think it's just a case of like, we're just always going to do with the Van Halen thing.
That's just what Van Halen is.
You're going to like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do. And like none of the things we picked so far like isn't what they do.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't see Death Grips going and making Taylor Swift songs.
Yeah,
They just can't do it.
Death Grips ain't coming out with a Christmas album.
Because that's not who they are.
I would listen to it.
I don't think I could listen to it. But like that's what it is. And the Kinks.
The sound of reindeer being slaughtered or something.
I don't know what it would be. The Kinks kind of the same way. Very British. Maybe a little bit less. Like the Kinks, I could feel like could do anything.
Yeah.
But like that's because they feel like they're just in that direction of being like a real thought band, like someone who isn't just about the music, but obviously can make great music. But they definitely put a lot of thought and effort into the album.
Well, I don't know if you read this about this particular album.
I read all sorts of shit.
I know, but that's why I want to share it with the audience.
Ask me, I'll tell you if I read it.
You probably did.
Okay.
But this whole album was actually designed to be a soundtrack to a fake documentary that was going to be put out by the BBC that Ray Davies and one of the producers who worked at the network, they were kind of going back and forth about actually making this like a mini series.
And they're amazing fake documentary series.
Yeah. And this was going to be the soundtrack for it. It never got off the ground, but they still recorded the album. And this is another thing where like, I think this album does a very good job of showing how good of a musician that Ray Davies is.
Yeah.
Because Ray Davies, I'm pretty sure he's Dave Davies is the lead guitar. But he's doing the vocals and he's writing a lot of the songs. I'm pretty sure he does a lot of the orchestration as well. I think he produced this album. I think he produces a lot of the Kinks albums. So he's a great musician and like really talented.
Yeah. And that's another thing is like, I would encourage people to like read just how this album was received at first, because like the stuff it's compared to is crazy.
Yeah,
it's like this is what the Beatles always meant to be. It's like shit like that. Like all the critics like loved it compared to everything out at the time.
And that's another reason why I wanted to listen to it, because I think this is one that because this isn't ever brought up in the conversations.
No,
that like
it's on the 1,000 albums you must listen to before you die.
You did it.
The funny thing is, I think every album we've talked about, except for Death Grips, have been on that. See, 1,001 albums you must hear before you die.
Perfect. Yeah. So the thing about this is like, I think it's a crime that the Kinks are not mentioned in the same conversation as like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Right, which is weird. Is weird.
Because they're an excellent band and really do a lot of different things, but they just never. I think they just never caught on in America the same way that the Beatles and Rolling Stones did. Are the Kinks a better band than the Rolling Stones? Of course they are.
The Rolling Stones kind of blow.
They're a much better band.
See that, and that's the issue. Is this album specifically? I think is really hard for an American with no like an American without any kind of how do I say it, worldliness maybe.
No, well, because they speak to especially songs like
it's very very British.
Especially songs song like She Bought a Hat Like Princess Maria, like Yes Sir No Sir, even like Victoria. It speaks to a British time. She Bought a Hat Like Princess Maria is about the post-war rationing that went on for years. Because like a lot of people don't know. A lot of people in America don't know. After the war, the British Isles, they kept on rationing. I think to like 52, like 7 years after, because they just didn't have. They had to import a lot of stuff because a lot of their farmland and stuff got destroyed.
Turns out being bombed a lot, doesn't it?
And their shipping lanes were disrupted by the war, so they had to kind of reestablish that, and it took them years to get back on footing.
Right.
So that's kind of another thing, actually, that one of the reasons James Bond caught on, because James Bond ate a lot of fancy food and went a lot of fancy places that a lot of people couldn't go to. Fun fact. But like it's the same thing of like America never experienced that. Like the rationing didn't really came on as long, but like even kids who didn't grow up during the war or anything like that still felt the effects of rationing.
Yeah.
Like Ray Davies and his brother, they went through the rationing period even though they were born in like 44 or like whatever.
Right.
So even though they didn't live through the war, the after effects of the war were still very present with them.
Right. And just like that whole British sensibility, just of like kind of just getting through it, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of like Yes Sir, No Sir, and Mr. Churchill Says kind of speak to that a little bit.
And it's something that Americans can understand Yes Sir, No Sir. That's fine.
Yeah.
They can probably understand Brainwashed. I mean, they can probably understand Nothing to Say. but like some of the other songs are like very not American thought processes or like sensibilities.
Yeah.
Like, you can like hear it and be like, all right, I get that's what British people are like, but to like, I'm
They're
sure
not
that
Americans won't identify with Victoria or Arthur the way that a British person would, especially a British person growing up at the time when this album comes out.
Yeah, and it kind of would. That's kind of one of the things that I was thinking about when I listened to it. Is that like, it really was a painful album for me, like I told you, because now I know that I'm not that British, and I always wanted to believe that I could be.
Well, like I said, one of the reasons I gave this to you was because you're definitely the biggest Britophile Anglophile that I know.
I love British shit.
Yeah. Our friend Brent is a Francophile for sure.
Right. You've coined the term Teaboo.
No, that was John.
John coined the term.
I coined Huiaboo
about
for French.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is still funny.
I'm a Maple Boo, Mountie Boo. I don't know what
you are into Canadian shit.
Yeah.
Beaver Boo.
Beaver Boo is pretty good.
I'm working on it.
I don't hate it. But yeah, so I think that's one of the big reasons why. But even so, like, there's a lot of other Kinks albums that do have a lot of crossover that just like they never caught on in America the same way that other bands did.
Right. I think Americans were really asleep during the 70s.
I think they just
something happened.
I think they just kind of got British invasion down. I think maybe the Kinks, for better or for worse, got kind of washed out with some of the other stuff that was going at the time.
I mean, if the Kinks and the Beatles came out in the same day, are you going to listen to what?
Yeah, I get
that's
it.
the problem.
That's
the problem. You can't, if you're literally up against one of the greatest bands of all time, if not the greatest band of all time, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, and you're kind of in the same wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, because they definitely were doing like early Kinks and early Beatles sounds very similar. It's just that the Beatles caught on.
Tengu says he made up Teaboo.
Maybe he did.
Maybe you did, Tengu.
It's just that Beatles were also very good at marketing and they had like excellent PR and stuff like that.
And their songs are better.
I mean,
fuck right off. You know the Beatles are a better band. They make better songs.
But their early stuff is very similar to early Kinks stuff. That's
true. And then they went crazy.
But the Kinks did as well. Like if you listen to, because I gave you for extra credit, you didn't have to listen to, so I don't know if you did or not or any of it. But if you listen to Lola versus Power Man, and the
I listened to a couple songs.
Like it's very different from this album, and it's very
crazy.
It's very different from because first of all, you have some great songs on there too. Like This Time Tomorrow, it's a great song. Power Man fucking rules. That's a great song.
Right.
If you didn't listen to that.
I didn't listen to that. I gotta listen to that.
But then you also have like Lola and stuff like that. It's like I said, it's just really a shame that the Kinks are not in the same conversation as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
The Rolling Stones really suck, though. That's going to be like what the main point of this show is.
That's the sticking point is.
Every episode we're going to talk about the Rolling Stones kind of suck.
Does the Rolling Stones have a good song? Of course they do.
Yeah, but they're not that good.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. Am I going to tell you that Mick Jagger is not great? No, he's great. He's great.
They're called the world's most famous garage band for a reason.
Listen. If you could say, hey, you could go meet Mick Jagger, I'd say, yeah, sure.
Tom, you didn't lock me.
I'd be like, sweet, this is great. I love meeting this guy. But if you're like, but you have to tell him he's just outright better than fucking, Paul McCartney. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. All right? I would say.
Tom, that hurts my feelings.
Okay, maybe I would lie to him. I'll give him the white lie. Because you know what? I'm a maker of things to happen. I'm going to be there, right?
D. Jagger over here.
I'm going to get involved.
Yeah. No, you're going to make it happen.
Right? I'm going to be like, hey, listen, you're better than Paul McCartney. And then, like, after it goes, he'll be like, in certain regards. And then he'll be like, what? But
Tom, I didn't hear that last thing you whispered.
Like, it's nice to meet you. That's what I'd say.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, he actually is not off on that. That's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, listen, they had great songs too, but it's really not in the same. Like, are you going to tell me the Kinks are worse than the Rolling Stones? No. Get real. This album should tell you right off the bat. I mean, I'm pointing at the Van Halen album, but like, if you go listen to this album and
listen to this Van Halen album and tell me the Kinks are not better than the Rolling Stones,
you can't do it. Honestly, the problem is Van Halen came out at the same time as Rolling Stones.
It's true. Well, I think
they were alive at the same time.
They were alive at the same times, and I, honestly, I don't know enough about Rolling Stones to tell you what they were doing in '78.
They weren't rocking this hard.
No.
I'm discouraged to find out that Van Halen was around the same time as Led Zeppelin. I mean, that's obviously true.
Yeah.
But, like, because Van Halen has 100,000 albums.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin does.
Well, because, like, Led Zeppelin during this time, I think I think this is, like, kind of like the physical graffiti portion.
Oh, you mean that extremely good album?
Well, again, talking about how, like...
We're going to figure this out.
Here we go.
What's their name? Led
75. His physical graffiti was 75.
What year is this album?
78. Okay, so Presence is 76. Song Remains the Same, also 76. And then In Through the Outdoor. Okay, so a lot of good.
It was 78.
Yeah.
So this was towards the end of them. In Through the Outdoor, I have no idea what that.
In Through the Outdoor is I think it's the last album before. Oh, it's got Fool in the Rain.
I do love that song. In the Evening, I love that song. Hot Dog, great name.
Yeah, this is the last one they did before.
I love In the Evening.
John Bon Jovi died.
All right, so Led Zeppelin was out. They were on their way out, right? Although In the Evening is a fucking good song. I'm gonna listen to that later today. Just watch me do it. You're not gonna watch me do it. Don't you dare look at me when I watch it. I mean, but they had already made all their greatest songs.
Yeah, but again, they're still kind of going through this phase of like being. This is definitely a very thoughtful, and I think kind of a lot of even the earlier stuff of Led Zeppelin is very, again, thoughtful, very artful, kind of, speaking, having a certain tone. Whereas Van Halen is kind of breaking out of that and being
right,
kind of shaking off maybe some of the staleness that rock music had accumulated throughout the decade after the Beatles broke up in 1970, and kind of shaking off some of that and being like, yeah, energy's back in rock music.
And again, is Led Zeppelin better than Rolling Stones? Of course. They're all better than Rolling Stones.
That's not even a question.
No. The question might be, are the Beatles better than Led Zeppelin, which I have a hard time with. I like Led Zeppelin more.
I think they are.
You think the Beatles are better than Led Zeppelin?
Yeah.
And yet you were debating Beatles and what was the other band? Kinks? Is that what you're saying?
In the early period. Strictly in the early period.
Are Kinks better than Led Zeppelin? Now,
no.
Thank you. I was going to say, keep in mind that you definitely have overplayed or outplayed Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I definitely am over Led Zeppelin at my point in life, at least for the next few years.
I'm not obsessed with them.
But I do kind of want to listen to some Led Zeppelin now that we're talking.
Led Zeppelin is fucking good.
Yeah.
And the problem is it's like teenagers go listen to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that shit?
Everybody has a poster of the old man with the lantern.
Yeah, because it's a cool ass album.
Yeah.
Nobody deserves Led Zeppelin but me. All right? Only I and you. You've earned it too.
Thank you.
But that's a fucking good band. These are some real heavy hitters. And then, Bonham dies, and then all of a sudden, what's this? David Lee Roth emerges.
He emerges 2 years ago.
And doesn't drum anymore. But then, you got a great album like Led Zeppelin 1. Am I saying that his death was worth it? I can't speak to that. But it's a great album.
So is there anything negative that you would say from Arthur?
Okay, so this album is not really it's not a hooker. Not a hook album. There are a few songs that I'm going to go back to listen to.
Yeah, this doesn't have a ton of singles either. I think Victoria was only the really big single.
When I read about it, it was Drivin' in Victoria. And Driving's a bad song. It doesn't belong on the album at all. It's a bad song. It's boring and stupid.
It makes perfect sense in regards to the actual concept, though.
Right, but in theme, it doesn't feel right.
I think you just don't like the musicality of it.
That's probably true. It's a little bit too Beach Boys-y. By the way, if you want to make me fucking mad, give me a fucking Beach Boys album.
I don't listen to enough Beach Boys that I can speak with authority on them.
Because is Rolling Stones better than Beach Boys? No, the Rolling Stones are still worse than the Beach Boys. But the Beach Boys are bad.
I like the Beach Boys, but that's
yeah. Everyone
they're different things. They're different things.
They're different things.
They're the American Beatles.
That's what everyone says, and it's wrong. This album I do like. I do think I could listen to it again.
Brian Wilson is just Paul McCartney's American brother.
This feels like an album that I pretty much have to. I feel like I would have to listen to in order.
Yeah, this is not a shuffler for sure.
No.
Not the Van Halen is. You just be like, oh, whatever.
Right.
I can drop. You call that a needle dropper. You drop the needle at any point. It's going to land on a great song.
I don't think that I will re-listen to this and find something new in it either. I feel like after 2 listens, I pretty much got it. I don't know what's going to pop out to me because I know the musicality is great. I get the message of the album. And not to say that I don't want to listen to the songs again, but I
think you're right that this album does not have as many songs that are going to stick to your ribs the way that Ziggy Stardust
compared to
probably
Ziggy
did.
Stardust. Yeah, that's my problem. Is I'm comparing to one of the greatest rock albums of all time, which some people apparently this is only in the 1001 albums you must listen to before you die, not necessarily one of the best rock albums of all time. It's very British. I don't hate it. Do I think there's probably a better intro to Kinks? Yeah, I do. For sure.
There definitely
That's
is.
not why you had me listen to it.
And they're definitely and I think honestly Low on the Money Ground is probably a better album overall.
But if I had listened to that first, I would have said, what is this?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I can go from that album back to this one. but I think I can go from this one up to that one.
Yeah, well, and again too, I think it's a case of like I think this is the kind of last, at least from what I know of them, because I don't listen to, I haven't listened to a lot of like all of the Kink stuff, but this is definitely, I feel like, the breaking point of when they kind of start shifting over to changing their sound a little more. I think this is the last part of that.
This feels like the most you album the Kinks made, though.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think I like the. I'm a huge fan of context in any regard, and this album is just full of context and like how and events that lead up to other events.
Right. Let me ask you this: what do you do while listening to this album?
It's one of the reasons why I like driving. Why driving's not as
Right,
good
I
as long as you think it is.
understand.
What do I do while listening to this album? Well,
maybe I missed something on driving.
because okay, so the thing
It's
about
apparently by the Kinks.
interesting. So the thing about driving is it's all about the post-war period after World War I and the kind of like lackadaisical attitude that the British and the Allies, but especially the British, have to the rest of events in the world. It kind of talking because like they talk about how like people are going to war in like China and Spain and Russia, and they're talking about like, oh, it doesn't matter, we're just driving along. Who cares? And it's like kind of going to a thing about
newspaper.
how yeah, it's kind of speaking to like how kind of the British Empire kind of ignored world events after the war, and it kind of came back to bite them in the ass a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. What do I do while listening to this album? Well, mostly it's been working.
Also, bend over. Don't try to rile me up with this Rolling Stones is better than Van Halen stuff. We're not even talking about that.
I'm
ignoring that.
I won't even listen to that.
I'm ignoring the comment.
What do I do while listening to this album? I think this is... You're right to say that this isn't really a background album the way that Van Halen is. Like I said,
Which is somehow a benefit.
No, not a benefit.
No, I'm just saying like that's a good thing. That's a background album in the context you're saying.
Yeah.
So like I can listen to this anywhere. But it sounds like what you're really saying is, who cares about what's happening in it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But yeah, it's a very heady album. I think it's the perfect counterbalance to what I was saying too about Van Halen. Whereas this album is very in its own head. It's thinking about a lot of things. It's expressing a lot of ideas.
Artfully. Very artfully.
And this is exactly the kind of album I'm talking about, of where Van Halen kind of shakes a lot of that rust off and being like, hey, not every album has to be Arthur. Not every album has to be, Sgt. Pepper. Sometimes it can just be fun.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't have to have a message.
And the problem is that infighting in rock is what eventually killed it. Mm-hmm. And it's a problem. I was going to say something that was going to be really nice. Oh, so nice. And then I forgot what it was.
Do I have any negatives about Van Halen?
Sure.
No, not really. I mean, what? You're either going to like Van Halen or you're not going to. There's probably one person who doesn't like Van Halen, and I don't know what to tell you.
Like, nothing at all that you can think of? Nothing bothered you a little bit? Or is it, like I said, every single song here's a fucking hit?
I mean, if I was going to talk about the weakest song, I probably...
If it's not Jamie's Crying.
I probably would say Jamie's Crying.
Just because it's even slightly slower. It even still kind of rocks.
I mean, maybe I'm not always in the mood to listen to Ain't Talking About Love, but like that's it.
Honestly, Ain't Talking About Love is the closest to Fair Warning in this album, so it's also great.
Yeah, but like
these songs are all at least 8s out of 10s. Except for Jamie's Crying, which is 6.
But like, I mean, just starting out with fucking Running with the Devil is so fucking good.
Honestly, that is my one complaint about this album is they should have started with Eruption. For the longest time, I believed that Eruption was the first song.
I mean, we all thought that, but I think
I don't know what happened. Suddenly, Running with the Devil's up there.
Yeah, we all thought that, but I don't hate it just because I think Running with the Devil is a great starter song too.
Honestly, do I like Jamie's Crying more than Running with the Devil? Maybe.
That's wrong.
I don't like Running with the Devil that much.
Really?
It's kind of it's again too slow.
I think it's a great starter though, just because just that intro of just the
right. It should have been Eruption first. Absolutely should have been Eruption first, just to really show everyone what's going on.
Well, yeah.
Because that's one thing they do if you ever listen to You Talking You Two to Me, one of the big things is they'll listen to like an album, and if they don't like it, Scott will always see if he can reorganize it to make like the flow a lot better. If it was me, Eruption's going first, followed by You Really Got Me, then probably Running with the Devil.
Yeah.
Then everything else can stay except Jamie's Crying's off the list.
Jamie's Crying's gone.
I mean, Jamie's Crying is necessary to kind of keep the album from, most people were already having a heart attack after I'm the One.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who's a fuck.
I'm the one
fest.
who's crazy.
That's
song.
a fuck fest.
It's like punk metal.
It's the best. And then James Crane's like, let's just fucking all right. There are women in the audience.
That's something a little gentler for the ladies. Sweet.
And then Atomic Punk comes on. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, Atomic Punk is a crazy song.
And that's something you probably never heard of before.
Yeah.
And that song, you're like, what? This is hiding in these albums?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I loved the deep cuts of this album because they don't get radio play. Like,
yeah,
Atomic
they're good.
Punk, On Fire. Like I said, I love Little Dreamer. That song is great. You know what that song is? It's not just dangerous. It's very sleazy. It's a sleazy
super
song.
sleazy.
Yeah.
Very sleazy. It's actually slower than Jamie's Crying and better.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree 100%.
And that's just it. There's not a loser on it. And the songs you don't know could have been hits too.
Yeah.
Atomic Punk could have been a hit. Could have been a hit. Little Dreamer could have been a hit. I mean, what's making Little Dreamer not a hit compared to I'll Wait? Nothing. They're both great songs. There's not a song on this album that you go, oh fuck this.
Yeah.
Like what do you like? You're skipping Jamie's Crying. That's it, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just fucking good. And the problem is, if I could control all of your time, which I can't, unfortunately, I would have you go right into the next album because I'm sure I'm gonna find the next album and you're gonna say, wow, it's a great album too. Because like it never goes bad for Van Halen.
Lower right.
You're right. Van Halen too.
Until Sammy Hagar comes in.
You're No Good. Dance Now, great. Bottoms Up, great.
See, you should have given me this one because I don't know like any of these songs except for Beautiful Girls.
It's not as good of an album. That's why I didn't give it to you.
Well, that's fair.
But you should listen to Bottoms Up because it's a great song.
So, final thoughts.
Yes.
Are you coming back to Arthur?
And
if you're not coming back to the whole thing, are you coming back to any part of it?
This isn't an album that really jives with me that I like. I didn't add it to my phone right away. That's probably my biggest jive to it. Do I think it was a valuable listen? Yes. Do I like? I would listen to Victoria again for sure. Actually, I'd probably listen to Australia again if you can believe it, because that caught on with me the second time.
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna listen to Brainwash after the show. So besides that,
I'm probably weirdly enough after the show, I'm probably gonna listen to the Reggie Watts version of that song that I like by Led Zeppelin.
Oh, No Quarter?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, fucking. That's because I mean, now that it's cold out, it's a perfect song.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And that's it's not the album's fault. This just isn't normally my wheelhouse.
No, and that's the whole point of the show.
It's the whole point of the show.
Honestly, I think you like this album a lot more than I thought you were going to.
Honestly, when I first listened to it, I'm like, I fucking hate this album.
I knew that was going to be your initial reaction.
Also, this album is real rough. It's real bad. Like, it's not bad. I just was like, this is too...
It's not you.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I wanted to say that this album isn't dense. Because, like, the way it's written is artfully written in a way that is easy to understand, but still getting across a lot of emotion. Because it's not like he's fucking giving you 100 words.
Yeah.
Like, the lyrics are very well written, and it's good stuff. But it's just not an album that... my style is more Van Halen style, where I just want to get into the car, listen to some rock and roll, and, if I'm playing Age of Empires and I'm playing as the Brits, maybe.
This would be a prime Age of Empires 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even though it's about the British Empire declining, it's still the most celebratory British album.
It's incredibly celebratory somehow, because British people love the idea of like declining. That's like their shit.
Well, and that's
they get off on that.
Well, that's the whole last song. Arthur is just about like, Britain, you're still great. We love you.
Yeah. No, that really is it.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, things are getting a little bit worse, but it's cool. We're still Britain. At least we're not like other places, right?
I will point out, I don't know if I pointed out a couple lyrics that I really liked when we were talking about Ziggy Stardust. I love in Arthur, one of my favorite lyrics on the album is when they go, now you see your children setting off in the setting sun to a new horizon where there's plenty for everyone. That speaks so much to me about this album, about like why I love it. That's all about like the independence movement, like especially India after the war, but then also to like, and like to a lesser extent America and Canada and stuff like that, really coming in Australia, really coming to their own as nations after the war, because they kind of have to step into the plate after Britain got annihilated. Yeah. But also they're very fruitful and they don't have to ration, so it's like suddenly the British Empire had to go through these hard times where like the British Empire was caring for all these other nations, and then now all these nations are going away where there's like the surplus in the British Empire, and Great Britain is kind of left in this like sorry state of itself. I love that line.
And again, not like it's a fucking novel. It's just well written.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say this album's not well written. You can't. There's no There's no like negatives to it.
Yeah.
But it's more of something that you have to sit and digest.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I think that's fair, and I think that's good. I think sometimes you need that.
Also a thing of it, this album, very much more so than the last one, this is kind of like getting you into musicals, too. Of like...
I know. I knew this was a scam.
Of going into like... And this won't be the next one, because I actually...
This one was dangerously like a musical.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a getting your feet wet of like, you gotta listen to songs in order, there's a plot here, check this shit out.
Right, and I'm not looking forward to some of that. But, I mean, I can... See, my problem is I like everything.
Yeah.
Once I'm like obligated to do it, I'm like, all right, that's fine. Because I got like minor Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, let's just make the most of it.
No, yeah, I get it.
Real cheeky in that way, you know.
Yeah. Slipping it in. No
but
one
like,
notices.
you're gonna give me some real fucking wank soon. I just know it. You're gonna be like, here's this shit.
No, I think the next one's. I think when we do the mini episode, possibly right after this.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you're gonna be very surprised with the album that you're gonna get.
I hope it's great. Do we have anything else? Any closing thoughts on this one?
Closing thoughts on Van Halen. Every song was great except for maybe Jamie's Crying,
Which is good.
Which is a fine song.
If you were to give it a 1 out of 10.
What?
1 out of 10. 1 out of 10 on for that album.
Oh, 1 out of 1 or a
1 to 10.
1 to 10. I thought you said I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10.
Are you gonna give it a 1 out of 10? That's my only question. You don't have to tell me what you're giving it.
No.
Yes.
It's a 0 out of 10.
No. No. I don't know what that means here. You know yeah.
Yeah. What can I say?
Did we do a numerical rating on the last time? I'm sure we didn't.
I don't think so.
But I kind of like it.
I think it's. Yeah, I don't know. I like the Yahtzee idea of like.
Right.
It's very.
Figure it out, bitch. Anyway, I give the Kink album a 10. All of them are just gonna be 10. That's my rule.
It's a good rule.
So it's like a 10, and then like you read about it, and you're like, why is this one a 10 too? Then you gotta like actually read the thing.
They're good dogs, Braun.
Like they're all. You know what?
This gets my lowest rating ever, 418 stars.
It gets a 10 out of 10 for being too long.
Gets 5 blank checks.
Anyway, I'm glad you liked it. I knew you would.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine a world where you go saying like, nah, I didn't get it.
I don't get what those Van Halen boys were up to.
And people at home, I want you to try it. Because a lot of people are like, well, you know, Van Halen, who cares? Or like, they're like, I'm just not into that type of music. I don't know how this isn't a little bit infectious, though.
Yeah, no, you put on Van Halen, and you're ready for the fucking best time of your life.
Let's say you're a real jazz guy, and you're like, I only listen to jazz, right? This might be tough, but take
Let's
a step
say you're
back.
Ryan Gosling in La La Land.
Yeah, you're going to be like, I think you would at least be like, all right, I see what they're going for. And
you're gonna be the old man in the movie who doesn't approve of their child's band, but you're tapping along to every song.
Oh yeah. Let me ask you this: did you feel at all during this album that Eddie Van Halen's possessed by a guitar?
No, but I did feel like...
Or a demon who plays guitar. Fine.
I did feel like he was very much in the way that later on in Shaman King, when the shamans learned to actually put their souls, the souls of the ghosts they commune with, into objects, and it makes it stronger.
Very clutch Shaman King reference. I mean, honestly, you could tell me that like Eddie Van Halen is just a vessel in which demons communicate to guitars.
He's got the POD. We saw that in the documentary. He's got the Pick of Destiny.
He absolutely did.
Yeah.
He absolutely has a Pick of Destiny. But he is not, like, he is like Jimi Hendrix where he is actually communicating through guitar.
Yeah.
Like, he is a one-to-one relationship with this instrument. And can't say that for the Kinks.
The guitar is his equal.
The guitar is his equal.
Yeah.
He is more guitar than man at this point. Although that's because he drank a lot.
That's true. They had to replace his liver with a humbucker.
Yeah, a little bit of a mini guitar in there. Anyway, final thoughts on Kinks. Very good.
I you know what? I appreciate you being honest
a good
with
out
me.
of 10.
I appreciate you being honest with me. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to it.
Do I think you're shitty for suggesting it? No.
I think honestly warmer reception than I was expecting.
I just can't come in and say it sucks, but because it doesn't.
Yeah.
If you give me an album that sucks, I'm gonna be like, this fucking sucks.
No, absolutely, I get it.
So try and really give me a curveball. Give me one that just fucking sucks. You're gonna be like, here's the fucking Little Mermaid soundtrack. I'm like, what the fuck? There's no way I'm getting into that shit.
The fuck?
Yeah, I'd probably get into it. I'd be like, I really like the song when she's on the beach.
You know, beach song. Guys, thanks so much for joining us to episode 2. Hopefully this one.
One's getting on.
Yeah, this one's gonna survive.
For a lot of people, this is episode 1.
It's true.
Thank you for watching.
Trust me, the first one was great.